we move to the next slide, we'll see that there's an inner and an outer circle. The inner circle really involves more of the internal planning and strategy and observations that are necessary in terms of putting together the marketing plan. And the outer circle really deals with things that you have to do in the outside world. The critical or the key word here is activities. Marketing is not a passive endeavor. You really have to be active in it. It's got many different components to it. It could have many different sets of institutions involved in it. Just as some examples, when I say institution, I could be referring to a marketing or advertising company, research and development, financial forecasting, distributors. Again, it really, we're speaking in general terms, and it depends on what you do, what your service is, how large your agency is, obviously the size of your budget, or perhaps if you have some in-house expertise, you may have some staff members that are capable of doing some of these different components. One of the critical factors that the experts discuss in marketing is that it has to be a process, and the reason it should be a process with a real workflow is because in order to have an effective marketing program, you need to determine its effectiveness. You can't determine effectiveness by things that are done ad hoc. It's much better to have formal processes in place with people assigned, with some type of review process, so you can see what has been working and what hasn't. Or if it's a new endeavor and if you never really devised or developed a comprehensive marketing plan, it's another reason to start it off with a model based on processes so that you can later review it and modify it as needed to make sure that it's as effective as can be. Now, in marketing itself, again, could be that you have members of the staff that have tremendous strength in some of these areas. There's a tremendous amount of creativity that's available in the ads itself. There is an entire science and art and logic, just for example, to borrow from the business world. Branding or naming is a whole area, and there are companies that specialize in just figuring out, what's the best name based on a whole bunch of factors for a new product or a new service. What should we call it? How should it be packaged, etc. There's a whole area of sort of industrial psychology on this to get people connected with that particular product or that service, and to make them feel that it's something that it's really that they need or want, and that they're going to pursue. That all goes into the creating interest part in customers. So sometimes we develop the customer by bringing the service to their attention. It may be a service they never thought of, or they were never previously in a position that they required this service. And now we want to let them know that this service is available and get them very interested in it. So there's a tremendous amount of creativity available in this area, and it can be very effective if done properly in terms of the overall marketing. And of course, the most important aspect of this marketing is the communication. You want to be able to effectively communicate your message, communicate your product, communicate your service to your clients and your potential clients. And there are a tremendous variety of ways of doing that. We'll see in the nonprofit world that I also heavily recommend that we do the same thing, and we'll again talk about this more in depth a little bit later. But it's very important to communicate your services, your past achievements, successes, your data and statistics to your funders and supporters. You might have existing funding or report requirements, but this is sort of going above and beyond and making a comprehensive PowerPoint presentation to them can really go a long way, and them feeling really good that they're funding you, that they're really getting value. And we're going to talk about value, very shortly. The next little panel is delivering, and this is again a critical aspect, and the most successful companies do this. You can't promise something that you can't deliver, because especially in today's economic climate, people really want to have value for it. So you really have to be careful in the sense that whatever you say that you're going to do, that you're going to really deliver it, or whatever you're presenting your service to be, that's what it is. So you have to be able to deliver the service. If you promote some type of service or aspect of the service and then you don't deliver, you're going to run into problems. And of course, the value is on both sides of the equal sign. The client for sure wants to see that the service that they're going to and receiving by your organization is giving them value. And obviously you have to get value from it, that you're, in the case of the nonprofit model, that you're fulfilling your mission statement somehow. And that it's bringing you value, that it's bringing value to your funders. They feel good about themselves that they're funding a quality operation where you're really helping people in whatever area. We have quite a diverse group, from educational institutions to medical, behavioral health. Excuse me, there's a tremendous amount of need out there, and just in terms of future funding, if you can demonstrate, above and beyond that you're really affecting people in a positive way, that you're really delivering very good services, that you're really hitting good numbers, that people are utilizing your services, there's value to you, the community needs you, people are reaching out to you, that will go a long way in future potential funding opportunities. It will go a long way in developing new supporters, perhaps new people that might be connected, or perhaps new board members. A lot of times board members change a little bit, not always in every organization. The people stay on the board for extended periods of time. There is some amount of change on the board, and it's always a great thing if a nonprofit can get a very well-connected board member to join their board. And of course, at the end of the day, the customer satisfaction in a nonprofit, some benefit to the society, where people feel the overall picture is, even if they don't necessarily utilize your services or can't support you directly, just the indirect support that they feel that you're valuable to the community can go a long way in terms of future funding. So this is a really good, if just to summarize or to look at some of the structure of developing the marketing plan, this is a really good overview. Now, getting back to comparing business versus the nonprofit model, they're really actually quite similar in many regards. To go right to the bottom line aspect, so to speak, at the end of the day, the business, whether it's a private company with a private owner, or with venture capitalists, or a public company with stockholders, at the end of the day, the goal of the business is to make profits. In the nonprofit world, at the end of the day, the goal is obviously to fulfill your mission statement. The whole point of the nonprofit is to fulfill the agency mission. Now, that is not to say that the mission can be fulfilled without proper funding levels, and this is why it's so important to target information that will enhance your agency in the eyes of your funders, supporters, and donors. Another area which I'll talk about a little bit later is the possibility of developing a volunteer staff. And often volunteer staff can become donors or supporters or even funders, as we'll see. So with this in mind, we can ask a couple of marketing questions in terms of comparing regular business model to the nonprofit world, and are there really real differences between business marketing and nonprofit marketing, or just the activities different? In other words, they're really conceptually the same, and you really need to follow the same structure as a business model, but it just looks different because the goals seem to be different. Another question nonprofits need to consider is, the explosion of the internet, and should your marketing plan include something on internet marketing? And why is it so important for nonprofits to also focus on not just your clients, but supporters, donors, and funders? And finally, how can the PowerPoint presentations enhance your marketing strategy? So we're going to try and answer all these questions up comprehensively, and we'll get to them answer shortly, but we need to get into a little bit more detail about some of the marketing. So to talk a little bit about inbound marketing and demographics, and I'd appreciate if everyone question, you can certainly raise your hand. There will certainly be a question and answer session at the end. And this is, again, we're going to cover areas that may help you in some way now, even with other aspects of your organization or operation. And the most important thing is, who are your customers? Who do you expect to be your customers or clients in the nonprofit world? What are your services? What are they meant to do? And who do you think is going to utilize them? Now, this really done properly, there are many excellent tools that you can use in-house to try and discover in your immediate area and beyond some demographic information. Just very quickly, and I'll talk about it more later on another slide, the U.S. Census Bureau American Fact Finder is a very powerful online tool that's available. It has many different tables available that breaks down all kinds of socioeconomic and demographic information by location, and you can really utilize it to get an idea of who's in the neighborhood. And of course, America is quite dynamic. People are, getting up and moving. There are new waves of immigration, and this gets into also the concept of cultural sensitivity. You want to make sure that you're marketing your services in a culturally sensitive manner. If you have various groups, especially new immigrant groups, that could be potentially new clientele. Of course, the groups could be very different. If you're an agency that provides services to, let's say, 45-year-old females versus an agency that's providing services to children 0 through 8, depending on exactly what you do, obviously the markets are very different. You need to come up with a different strategy, how to reach the groups of the people, the parents of the children, etc. And it's going to be a completely different approach. Also, how the groups choose to access the product and services. And again, today, this is why I want to emphasize really internet presence at the very least. We're going to recommend, as we'll see later, at the very minimum, a website, even if you don't have a formal internet marketing plan. We can substitute on the last one value for pay. If you're providing free services, people still want to know their value. Again, I don't think that we should go with the approach that there's no competition. We're the only social service agency around in this area. We're the only ones that provide the service, etc. A lot of times, also, nonprofits are providing very similar services to for-profits. There are examples, your private physician can go to an FQHC or county health department for medical services for certain things, or you could be providing behavioral health services and, taking, New Jersey Family Care and Medicaid program versus private pay only. So a lot of times we're providing the same services, and it still doesn't mean that we should compromise in terms of quality of service. So that really speaks to the value and the perception that the client has of the value that they're receiving. Now, you obviously don't or should not only focus on your own operation, but you need to have a sense of, are there other agencies providing the same service? Or if you want to expand to a new service, is someone already doing that? You don't want to have a situation, especially in these economic times, of duplication of services. A lot of the funders don't want to have that. They really prefer, unless there's a problem with an existing agency, to have no duplication of services in each one of your niche. You also want to be able to design a package or promote your service in a way that clients were going to come to you versus go to the competitors if you do have competitors. And again, my perspective is you should approach it as if you definitely do have competitors, even if you think that you don't, or even if the nearest competitor seems to be significantly far away. And of course, the product or service, how it should be identified, the personality of it, so to speak, how to name it, how to brand it. And here is, again, you really need to consider is there cultural diversity in some of your clients, and to what extent do you need to be culturally aware of exactly how to do this. And it doesn't just mean in a very limited way. You really need your staff to be available in some staff training on cultural sensitivity in terms of how to approach and how to deal with people from a different culture that might have different acceptability levels, or certain topics or certain subjects or certain services have to be presented in a certain way for them to be acceptable. And again, I'm speaking in very general terms. A lot of the organizations provide very different services, but you really need to focus on cultural sensitivity and cultural diversity in a very big way.